Hello and welcome back to another video. Today here again on Forza Horizon 5 to test out another week's brand new car pass car. This week the Oldsmobile Toronado, which is kind of like tornado but spelt incorrectly, which I believe is the first Oldsmobile we've had in Forza Horizon 5. And these were produced between the 1966 and 1992 model years, spanning 4 generations, this one being a first generation from 1966, so in fact the first year of production. It has a quite ridiculous 7-litre V8 engine, which produces 385 horsepower, which isn't much for an engine of that size, to be honest, and all 385 of those horses go through the front wheels. This is in fact a front-wheel drive muscle car. It also has 645 newton meters of torque going through those same front wheels, making it, well, it was the most powerful front-wheel drive car when it launched. It does, however, weigh 2,039 kilos with that massive great lump of an engine at the front, putting it in D-Class right down at 403 performance index here in Forza. And if we take a quick step inside the car to have a first look at the interior, we can see, well, there's sort of a bench seat, although it kind of has 2 seats in it. It's a bit weird, and there's far too many things going on that dashboard. But anyway, as it's such a ridiculously low performance index car, there's not really much point doing a first test drive, because, well, it's too slow for us to really tell what the handling is like. So, should we just go straight to the festival and see how it handles on the track? I think that's a perfect place to test such a slow car. So, as with all of the new cars here on Forza Horizon 5, I took it for 5 laps around the festival circuit, and what you're seeing here is the fastest time I managed to get out of the car. So, yes, usually I would kind of go in and give you my driving impressions first, but as I didn't, I can give you a quick kind of overview of what the car, well, felt like. I mean, it does have nearly 400 horsepower through front wheels, which, yes, has been done quite a lot these days in hot hatches and stuff, but as I said in the intro, this was the most powerful front-wheel drive car in the world when it came out by, well, quite a lot, and I don't think anyone's done a front-wheel drive car with a 7-litre engine since then. But as you might expect, and as you can see from that corner, it did still understeer into walls, and this was on my best lap, so I'd done that pretty much every lap that I went round here. But that wasn't really the biggest problem. The biggest problem was actually the brakes. It just didn't slow down, which is mostly why I was going deep into these corners. It wasn't the handling in the corner itself, it's that it just wouldn't slow down before you got there. Having said that, I wasn't actually going very fast around the corners, because, well, it's not very fast. But as I kind of thought, which is why we didn't do a full kind of drive of it before the festival lap, it is kind of hard to tell that it handles badly, because it's just slow. But yeah, there is a bit of understeer and a bit of, well, terrible brakes. But yeah, it mostly is just slow, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, it's quite interesting driving something this big and heavy that's also front-wheel drive. So, nothing else similar had been around the festival previous to this for us to compare to. There are a few other D-Class cars, however, and given the PI of this, we did expect it to be quite slow, and it kind of fits in where you'd expect. 49th out of 50 on the list, faster only than the Wuling Sunshine, which was way down at D-Class 207 PI. Remember, this is at D-Class 403, and it's just below the Renault 8 Gordini that's D435. It is 2 seconds slower than that, and quite substantially faster than the Wuling. But anyway, let's go and see what upgrades and customization are available, build it to a reasonable level, and take it round again. So, let's take a quick look at the conversion and aero options, because there are sometimes some unique ones, whereas there aren't really for other parts. So, we've got a 6.2 litre V8, a 6.7 litre V8 diesel, a racing 7.2 litre V8, a 7.7 litre V12, 8.4 litre V10, 8.9 litre V8, and a 7.4 litre V8. So there's many V8s, a V12 and a V10 in there. You've got your usual rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive conversions, and what was in aspiration, we've also got twin turbos and a supercharger. But as with most of these new cars, I'll try and keep those things as they are to keep the car as authentic as possible. We've got usual front splitters, which are quite far under the car for some reason. Usual Forza Aero for older vehicles, and as it's a muscle car, I'm guessing it's got, yeah, the usual bonnets. So let's build it probably to the top of C class, because D's a bit too slow, and then see how it performs. So we now have 453 horsepower and weigh 2,057 kilos, despite putting in a little bit of weight reduction, made the tyres a bit wider, slightly better brakes, slightly better suspension, and just generally all round, hopefully it'll handle a little bit better. Not loads of power added apart from a supercharger. So, as with the stock version of the car, it was given another 5 laps around the festival, and what you're seeing here is the best time I managed to set in the Oldsmobile Toronado upgraded to C class. It is unfortunately the first car I've done at the top of C class and taken around here, so we've got no benchmark to really compare this to. But as for the driving, it felt nice with that slightly added grip. I think I went for street tyres in the end, but full width, and there's slightly better suspension, slightly better brakes. Those were the kind of areas I felt like needed the most kind of improving. Didn't add all that much power, although I did put the supercharger in, so it's up to 400. One of the things I kind of regret not putting in is a gearbox, but it wasn't too bad in terms of gearing. Just sometimes felt like it could have had a bit more acceleration on the straights. I'm just noticing how cool the speedometer is in the cockpit here, which you'll notice in some parts of the replay where I'm showing the interior view. Keep an eye out for that, that's quite cool. But yeah, it drove so much nicer like this, and it felt like it was going pretty well. But like I say, no time to compare to, so I don't know if it's actually a fast lap or not. But potentially, with some of the future cars that get added, we will build them to C class, although having said that, there's nothing that kind of lends itself to that soon. So yes, being the only C class cars that's gone round, it is of course slower than all the other cars because they're in higher classes, putting in a 119.346, but it did feel quick to me for a C class vehicle, so I think potentially it's not too bad. I know in lower classes front wheel drive can sometimes work. Yes, I did have to put bigger wheels on to get it to sort of sit nicely, and that weird front splitter to kind of get the PI to balance. And yeah, potentially some other options like a gearbox could have been slightly better ways to go with it, and maybe not putting in the power. Maybe the lap time could have been found in other ways, but anyway, it felt pretty good the way I had built it, and it's a very quick set of upgrades, as they always are in these videos. But yeah, I've very much enjoyed driving this car. Stock, yes, the brakes weren't great and the handling wasn't perfect, but it's a very powerful front-wheel drive muscle car, so that was kind of to be expected. And yeah, upgraded, it drove very nicely. I know only in C class, but I think potentially it might work in B as well. You probably wouldn't want to build it much higher than that. But I find it quite an interesting car. The fact it was the most powerful front-wheel drive car, the fact it's a 7-litre V8 front-wheel drive muscle car from the 60s, it is just quite different to anything else we've got. So very pleased that it's been added. And we have a selection of very interesting and very exciting vehicles coming in the future weeks of this update, which I'll of course be taking a look at when they come out. I've just noticed the brake calipers don't work on this, they're red on the front and black on the rear. So it's another car that's broken on those. But anyway, yeah, plenty of very cool cars coming. There's a new Mini, there's some new McLarens, there's a Porsche Speedster, which I really, really like. So yeah, plenty of exciting stuff, and that's just Festival Playlist and Car Pass Cars. There is, of course, the new Drift Story mode with the Mustang Mach-E prize car, which I will also be taking a look at. So plenty of very cool vehicles coming very soon. But for now, for a first look at the Oldsmobile Toronado, that is going to be all. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back with the next video very soon.